Good morning and welcome to a wonderfully wet Djuma private game reserve. My name is Brent Leo Smith. I have Brian Joubert on camera. We have James Commander Bond Henry on the other vehicle with Willem the Wildebeest Doorbank. And sometimes Brian and myself are known as the Killer Bees. And we're on our way to the last position of the Styx Lionesses, and you're on a live African safari. It is very dark this morning due to the low-flung cloud. So we're hoping that those lions haven't moved too far. It is raining, as you can probably see, and there's quite a bit of mist on the lens, which is giving me quite an angelic vibe I'm seeing, which I quite like. I hope you guys too. We do apologize for it, but unfortunately operating in this wet weather, stuff like this is going to happen. So if you are wondering about anything out here in the bush, I'm hoping, apart from lions, we might see some frogs and other critters this morning. And if you have any questions about said critters, please feel free to drop either of us an email on questions@WildEarthTV or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. So we're about to arrive at the last position of the Styx ladies, who were feeding on a sub-adult buffalo on yesterday's sunset safari. I'm hoping they weren't too greedy and wolfed it all down overnight. I did hear them roaring in this particular area, so it is possible that maybe one of the Birminghams has decided to join them. There we go. So we saw that the one female looked like she had very engorged mammary glands yesterday, so I think she might be pregnant. Maybe she's just got a stomach full of buffalo. I doubt though, and hopefully we'll be able to reconfirm that today if they're still here. And it was somewhere in this vicinity. Sorry, till we get new bulbs, I am using a pea shooter for a spotlight. Can smell a carcass, so I know I'm in the right area. And it is gone. And there's the rib cage, and there's not a lion in sight. You got the rib. Let me find you a gap there, Brian. How's that? So that is all that is left of that buffalo. The lions have skedaddled. So what we're going to do is we're going to hope that they've decided to hang around. Of course, with all the rain overnight, it's going to be very difficult to see tracks. But we can see where they've been lying in the road and walking up and down. But of course, around the carcass site, it makes life a little bit difficult to find exactly which direction they went.
Is of Willem. Hello, Willem.
Hi, Jan.
Willem is very subdued, of course, because he, like most South Africans, is allergic to being wet in the rain. I am one of those people as well. And now, Shelley, you wanted to know about the foam nest frogs. Well, there they are. That's a number of nests, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 foam nest frog nests. And what happens there is the female foam nest frog will exude some sort of pheromone that will attract males, and she will be set upon by 3 or 4 different males. And the 3 different males, sorry, excuse me, I believe my sound is a little muffled. Here we go. There, I'm sure it's better now. I can hear lions calling, but they're well south of our boundary, so I think poor old Brent is around that area and he'll be hearing them, but they are, I think, well south of our boundary. He's over there. Anyway, what happens with those foam nest frogs is that the female will eventually, well, she'll exude her pheromone, the males will come up, and then they will all try and mate with her. And in the conflagration, that foam is formed from a whole lot of, she produces a whole kind of a slimy substance, and in the whole mess of the thing, it forms that foam. So there he is, he's now calling in those lions which are calling. He's calling in the lions which are calling. Yes, that's how it really goes. And then eventually what she does is she lays her eggs as the foam is formed. And then when the warmth comes, or a little bit of warmth the next day, that foam turns to like a hard, it's almost like polystyrene with the eggs in it. Quite toxic, I believe, to predators. And that means that the predators will leave it alone, because white out here will attract anything. It's obvious to anything that can see. And so it's kind of a warning coloration, I think, there. And eventually the little tadpoles will eat their way through that foam and drop down into the water below. Now, the foam nest frog is not exactly what you'd call common. And so what it means is that there are probably, I'd say maybe 1 or 0.5% of the tadpoles that are born to that foam nest frog will actually survive. The rest of them will be devoured by various things. In this particular pan, terrapins will be the main culprit or devourer of foam nest frog tadpoles. Right, that is all I have to say about the foam nest frog. We can just see a slight lightening of the horizon there. And so let's head to the east to try and find a whole lot of sun. Lucy, you're in South Bend, Indiana. Of course you are. And you'd like to know a little bit about how many frogs there are in the nest. I'm actually not sure. I'll look it up though. I've got a little frog app, and the next time I'm off air, I will look it up for you, and we can see. You will hear some zipping every now and again. That is, of course, because I do not wish to have a wet body during the course of the drive. There is a bit of drizzle, but so far it should be fine. We had quite a heavy downpour at about 4 o'clock this morning, but that seems to have ceased. Hello, Century Otter. You want to know why it is that we're allergic to rain. We're not allergic to rain, so I'm not sure if you're being serious or not, but we are slightly averse to being wet because we're so unused to it. We're so used to having clear, sunny skies. And so when we do get wet, we're A, ill-equipped for it, and B, we just don't know what it feels like. So, I mean, if you live in Scandinavia or you live in Britain, part of your wardrobe is a waterproof. That is genuinely waterproof. You will have all sorts of kit for going out in the wet. Otherwise, you'd have to live at home inside the whole time. Wellington boots, a classic example. Now, we out here are normally very ill-equipped for that, to the extent that I am comfortable saying to you that in all my years in South Africa, and there have been 39 of them, I have yet to purchase a garment that is waterproof. And so, unlike all over the United Kingdom, where you can buy all sorts of good rainwear, all sorts of European rainwear, and in America the same thing, here it's hopeless. Hello, Brian Jurgensen. You want to know about the size of a foam nest frog. A foam nest frog is that big. It's about 2.5 or 3 inches across, and it's white, or grey white, and that gives rise to its other name, the grey tree frog. So it's not a very large frog. They're quite common, and you can hear them calling sometimes, and it's a very subtle little croak. Then they're silent for a while, and then they go again. And they'll live on underside of trees, in little crevices in homes sometimes, because they need to avoid becoming dried out, of course, during the dry season. Right, Brent has a view of the sun. Let's head across to him and I will try and do a bit of research on the foam nest frog.
So we can just see a slight bit of that pinkish glow on the eastern horizon as the sun attempts to break up this cloud. That is the only little patch of clear sky we can see. There's two of them on the eastern horizon. It does make quite a beautiful view. But the drizzle has stopped for now. There is still a lot of rain. Hopefully it holds out for the rest of the sunrise safari, and as soon as we're finished, it becomes a downpour again, giving the earth some much needed nourishment. So we are going to head off to the east, straight down the southern boundary, and then start on the eastern. Oh, do you hear that, Brian? There's a lion calling really far away. Way down to the south. But it's coming through even softer than that. It's more of a really far away. Now we just got to hope for a lion that's much closer to respond. Doesn't look like anyone's going to respond, so we're going to carry on. And while we do that, we've got a question from Michael. A wet welcome to you, Michael. Michael would like to know, did the Mapocho ever hold territory in Djuma? They did. They controlled an incredibly vast tract of land when they were at their prime, and Djuma and the northern Sabi Sands fell well within the range of the Mapocho. Particularly two Mapocho spent quite a lot of time up here. One that was known as Mr. T, and the other that was known as Kinky Tail. He had a broken piece of his tail that had obviously kinked. I think it looked like from a bite. Mr. T was referred to by a lot of the trackers further to the south as Satan, or Satan, due to the fact on one occasion one of the older Mapocho was mating with a lioness, and he charged in, chased the other male off, killed the lioness, mated with her corpse, and then ate her completely. So a lot of the trackers down to the south called Mr. T Satan. So Sue's wondering if I think that Styx lioness that we saw yesterday was heavily pregnant, is near to giving birth. I'm not sure about heavily pregnant, but definitely pregnant. So probably will give.
Of course, is on Wendy, very recalcitrant, doesn't like the rain any more than Vian does. Wendy and Vian, they don't like the rain. I'm just trying to think what else to say to you immediately because I was caught unawares. Right, let's stop and listen to some birdies. There, Vian, is a magpie shrike, which is calling. Well, it was. There, that's another one calling. Isn't that lovely? Way in the background. Way in the background, you can hear a grey-headed bush shrike. Now, what these chaps are doing, I don't know if maybe I can spot them all with my spots light, but there are a whole lot of flying termites around. Most of them are in my bedroom, but there are others here. The lion's calling again. I'm just going to call Brent quickly on the radio and find out if he is still in the south and he can hear those. Brent, do you copy, Brent? Sorry, it's a bit disjointed, that story, but every time the lions call, it's so exciting. You might actually be able to hear them. Brent Leo Smith, come in, Brent Leo Smith.
Standing by.
Have you got that audio? You can hear him now. I can hear his car driving at roughly 350 kilometers per hour.
James, I must have missed it.
Ready? I think they're Twin Dams or just south of.
Probably me. Almost at Twin Dams now.
Okay, Brent is right there. So if they are on the reserve, he will hear them.
I'll just stand by here and listen to it.
Now the others replying. Sorry, I know it's difficult to hear everybody, but basically to where your camera's looking now, that's where the first group called, but I think south of our boundary, which is about a kilometer away from here, so about, I don't know how many, what's that, 0.8 of a mile, and then the others just replied from sort of back the way there, but a long way away, probably about 4 or 5 kilometers away, so 3 miles. Anyway, like I was saying, the termites have come into my room and they have come out in great profusion, and they come out as soon as it rains, of course, because the ground is soft, and that helps them to be able to create a mound. When they dig under the ground, they cannot get under the ground when it's very hard, and so that's why they come out when it rains. And that, of course, creates great excitement amongst the birds, and they will fly around and try and catch them all. It's a very fresh, delicious morning, I must say. On we go. James Bear, you've asked about a species of nightjar. I'm not sure that I understand fully. You say, how often do we hear furry nightjars speaking during the early morning? Sorry nightjars. I'm not sure what a sorry nightjar is, James Bear. We don't get a particular species called a sorry nightjar here. We get the fiery-necked, which goes, "Good Lord, deliver us! Good Lord, deliver us!" giving rise to its sort of nickname of the litany bird. Then we get the Mozambique or square-tailed nightjar, which goes. Here are some very wet buffalo. And then we get the European, which is almost silent here because it doesn't breed here. And we might get a pennant-winged, but that would be very unusual. So, James, but I'm not sure which nightjar you mean specifically. There is a magnificent buffalo bull. As I was saying a little bit earlier, or not today, of course, but a little bit earlier during the course of the month, the buffalo are starting to look a bit ropey as a result of the drought, and you can see his hips sticking out there. They will now start to put condition on, because there is some green grass. You can see all around his feet there is green grass, although he seems to be browsing on a tree, which is unusual. Now, the interesting thing with the grass, of course, is that, I mean, I don't know this for sure, but it would be fascinating to do some kind of a study. Well, I think it would be more fascinating to read the results of the study rather than actually do it, just to check what the nutritional content of this grass is, because I suspect that it's quite a lot lower than it would be earlier in the season, perhaps. I think you'll find that most of the resources, the carbohydrate resources, have been used up in the rootstock of those plants, which means that the leaves will not be particularly nutritious at the moment. So maybe that's why that beef was having himself a bit of a browse. Safari Dean, you say that you can't wait to see the new life that the rain has brought. I'm hoping for lots of frogs. I agree with you totally. It's certainly brought a great deal of enthusiastic life from the flying termites. You saw one there fly past the buffalo. And the soft pitter-patter of rain continues. We've had enough of that buffalo, have you? Mm-hmm. Okay.
We need to go find a bulla.
We need to go and find a bulla, apparently. Right, okay. Well, fair enough then. Let's, let's press on. There's another buffalo right next to us, Liam. You're going to have to point your camera at him. There he is. Now, the light being cast on him is slightly artificial. We do still have a bit of light on. Let me turn that off. There we go. Now he looks natural. So they still look a huge amount better than any of the sort of domestic cattle outside the reserve, because they do have a bit more to eat out within the reserve. You can see his muscle definition is still pretty good, but they're ribby and a bit hippy. But I think after a few weeks of this new grass, they're going to be fine. Now, I'm not sure what the total rain we've had is over the last, say, 3 or 4 days, but I think it must be about 100 millimeters. Let's quickly go across to Brent. He's got a much larger animal than this even.
So look what we found. Someone who's a little bit late getting back to the water. A rather embarrassed-looking hippopotamus, making its way more than likely back to the largest water hole in this area, in the southeast corner. Unfortunately, that water is to the south of us. Sorry, guys, need to be on the game drive radio for a second. Morning, Chris. Just that the sticks are no longer in position. They've left, and there was some lion audio. Sounds like south of Twin Dams. Brent. Okay. That hippo is going to... The water hole's just down there. That hippo is still jogging on. Look at it go. Jogging back towards the water hole. And you can see how that hippo is not even going near full speed and how quickly they can move. So you can imagine at full speed they can get up to about 40 kilometers an hour. They would probably beat Usain Bolt in a 100-meter sprint if they needed to, even with that large, ungainly body. There we go, off it goes, heading back towards the Chitwa Dam. So, Sue, sorry, we disappeared into a black hole while I was answering your question on the pregnant Styx lioness. I think she's probably going to give birth in the next month or so. I don't think she's heavily pregnant, as in about to burst, but definitely pregnant. So just looking at a track here, it's quite difficult with this hard ground, so I'll be with you in half a second. And I'm just trying to see if there's a clear one that I can show you guys. No, unfortunately not. So initially I thought it was a leopard track, but it's very difficult to see. It actually looks like a baboon track. A sandblaster is just commenting that we never see hippos apart from sleeping in the pan. Well, now with the water, those hippos have spread out, and that hippo has come out to graze during the night and is now heading back towards the safety of the water for the day. So the hippos, like a lot of the other animals, will be quite happy that it's rained. Not only has it taken quite a lot of pressure off the remaining water holes in terms of space for hippos, which is why we've had hippos sleeping in the pan, because the other water holes have dried up and there's been massive competition for females and space in those remaining water holes. So young and old males, like the ones we had at the Djuma pan and sometimes at the Galago pan, were forced into those little pump pans. Now, fortunately for them, there's enough water around that they can not have to stay in that very smelly little pan. And who knows, maybe there might even be hippo back in Buffalo's Hook. Water hole, we'll swing past there a little later and have a look. morning gale in Rhode Island. Gail would like to know how vulnerable... Sorry, Gail, 1 second. Hippos are out of the water. Sorry, there's an elephant that's been walking down the road. Gail, you can see his tracks going there. Nice on top of the early morning. Whoever drove here earlier this morning. So an elephant's one of the few tracks you can see nice and easily after a bit of rain, being so heavy. Our hippo is another one, actually. And back on the subject of hippos, Gail was asking how vulnerable are hippo out of the water. Well, Gail, they're actually not that vulnerable. Remember, they're a massive animal with a massive defensive array. It's got a serious armory in its mouth. So they are far more vulnerable out of the water than in the water, but they are still quite capable of defending themselves against lions and that outside of the water. Lions would approach a similar tactic to what they would with buffalo, except so if they cornered it, they would keep jumping on its back, and 1 or 2 lions would keep distracting the business end where the danger is. So they do hunt hippo in some parts of Africa very regularly. Here, we have seen the Nkuhumas on a hippo kill, and male lions are more likely to take down a big hippo like that, obviously being much stronger than the females. So unfortunately, the rain has started again. It's a little bit harder, but don't worry, we shall persevere to bring you as much of a safari as possible. Fingers crossed it holds off till the end of the drive. I don't know, I've just got this lucky leopard feeling this morning as I search around. So, chatting about lions, which we saw on the Sunset Safari, unfortunately they moved on today. Is that a lion track? Nope. Olenek is wondering, are these the Transvaal species of lion or a different species? Hello, wet and unhappy vultures. Let me go back for you, Brian. I think it's going to be a better view from the other side of the tree. So when you have Olenek, I'll get back to your question shortly, but let's just have a look at the vultures while they're sitting there. When you have extended cold, cool, rainy weather like we're having, off goes one. The vultures suffer. So they are very big and heavy birds. So flying is quite an effort for them. So they utilize the hot air coming off the ground that create thermals. They actually ride those thermals up high. So they don't need to flap away for hours and hours, and they can just sort of soar on those hot winds. But now obviously with this cool, cold weather, none of those thermals are actually operational. So the vultures are unable to get up nice and high and search for carcasses. So they tend to be a little bit skinny. And these are white-backed vultures. And they're looking quite uncomfortable in this cool weather, all puffed up. And of course, being a big bird like they are, they prefer to sit on these dry, dead trees because it's easy for them to take off and land. Their wings don't get caught up in branches. But the other negative is that you are very exposed. Oh, there's a vulture had a yawn. It feels like us when we get up in the morning. Oh, it looks like he might get to fly. Guys, there's a whole rib cage waiting to be picked just up the road. Come on, get on it. Tut tut. They do look quite miserable in this weather. And sort of looking at his feet going, oh, come on now. What I do for a bit of sunshine. thought he might fly there for a second. No, looks like he's going to sit it out, tough out the weather. So, Olenek, I haven't forgotten about your question, and I will get to it when we come back. In the meantime, James has beaten me to the Buffalo's Hook waterhole, so let's go see if there are any hippo or updates from that spot.
I think beat him to Buffalo's Hook is probably a little bit, well, it's very kind of him to say that, but I didn't know it was a competition. But here we are at Buffalo's Hook Ocean. There used to be Buffalo's Hook Dust Bath, now an ocean. But Buffalo's Hook is no longer unoccupied. Look at that. From nowhere, it would seem that a hippopotamus has taken up residence here, probably much like the hippo you've just seen with Brent. And I suspect quite strongly that this will be a young bull again that has moved out of the suboptimal habitat that is all over the place at the moment. And now he's found himself an enormous body of water, and the relief must be profound. He's quite, you can see his head is not large, so probably about 2 feet across, so not very big. And so I would say a young bull who's been tossed out of the pod by the dominant bull. The other thing that are in great profusion in the Buffalo's Hook Ocean at the moment are terrapins, the serrated hinged terrapin, and they are all over the place. Well, just difficult to see at the moment. Sorry, I keep forgetting that I need to undo my lapel mic. You can hear some water thickneys calling now. And there you can see the terrapins floating about the place. That's quite fun. Now James Bear, thank you for your update. You asked about the sorry nightjar and you meant the fiery-necked. We don't hear them so much in the rain, you know, James, but otherwise when just before dawn breaks, on an early morning, if the skies are clear, then we will hear the fiery-necked nightjar going, "Good Lord, deliver us! Good Lord, deliver us!" There's also, Wimpy, there's a little bird there, just in front of where the hippo has just sunk under the water. Let me get out my powerful, yet unwaterproof binoculars and have a look what it is. Can you see it there?
Yeah.
It's a 3-banded plover.
Legs come in.
So that's quite a common bird, and one of the few plovers that will stay here the whole year round. Hello, Katrina. Welcome to the sunrise safari on this sort of cold and gloomy day, but very pleasant because of the rain that you can see falling on Buffalo's Hook Ocean there. You want to know what my favourite bird is? My favourite bird out here is probably the white-browed scrub robin. I just enjoy the call that it makes. It fills me with a deep sense of peace and that all is well with the world. My favourite raptor, I suppose, my favourite impressive bird, if you like, would be a batelier. Tim, your favourite bird?
Birchel's cuckoo.
The Birchel's cuckoo. The Birchel's cuckoo, everybody. It's otherwise known as the rainbird. I'm not going to get my book out to show you, and it goes like this. How's that, Pam?
I like babblers too.
Babblers also. Arrow marked babbler. Babblers, of course, are called babblers because they babble. Let us leave this hippopotamus to himself. I'm so pleased there's one back here, and I know that when little Gracie, aged 8, begins to watch this evening, she only watches in the evening, she'll be most pleased to find that Bob, the bachelor of Buffalo's Hook, seems to have made his way back to the dam. Hello, Janie. You say, so Bob is back. Where is Princess Daisy? Well, now, there are going to be a few of you who don't know what on earth we're talking about there. Bob, of course, was a single hippo bull that lived in this dam for a long time, just as the kind of dry season was coming to its zenith. around October and November time. Then he disappeared. But before he disappeared, a companion joined him. And of course, we developed a tremendously romantic story about Bob, and then Gracie in Ohio named the other hippo Princess Daisy. And the romance of Bob and Daisy was the subject of some discussion over the course of a number of weeks. Then Daisy absconded. Well, I mean, there's absolutely no way to tell whether it was Daisy or Bob who absconded. And then Bob came back. Well, it could have been another hippo, but so the story went. Anyway, so that could be Bob. It looks much smaller to me, but we're not going to tell Gracie that. I think we'll just call that Bob returned. Where's Princess Daisy? Well, probably found a more dominant bull, to be honest. She was quite a catch, was Daisy. Natasha, a question from you coming through all the way from Ontario, but I'm afraid I'm missing it. Louis, see, you're going to have to go again with that. I'll try and turn my volume up. Ah. Natasha, you want to know what a hippopotamus eats. Natasha, a hippopotamus, surprisingly, eats only grass. And he will love this kind of short green grass. And where there are lots of hippos, they create lawns because they crop the grass in such an even way. And so they only eat grass. And we're often asked to tell folk tales, traditional African folk tales. And I am not a great expert on traditional African folk tales. The one folk tale I know is that of the hippopotamus and why he eats grass. Or why he eats grass? Yes, I think that he was, I'll get it wrong, but he wasn't allowed, for some reason he wanted to live in the water, and God said to him, well, you can't live in the water because you'll eat the fish, and the hippo said, no, I promise I'll only eat grass, and God said, well, how will I know? And the hippo said, well, I will spray my dung all over the place so that you can see if there are any fish bones in my dung. And that is why, of course, the hippopotamus sprays his dung all over the place. That is, of course, not a true story. It is a folk tale. Ah, Brent has a small raptor on ground. Let's go and look.
Look at this. This is definitely not something we see often on the ground. As you can see, it's a little acipta, which is a type of raptor, and it's feeding on the termite alates that are emerging. And normally we just catch fleeting glimpses of these stunning little raptors. Now, let's see who's awake and on the ball this morning. So I'm sure this might be a new one for some people's birds lists, but it should be one a lot of you also have. So I'm going to ask, who knows what bird this is? Who can tell me which little raptor this is? And you can send your answers through to questions@WildEarthTV via email, or use the hashtag SafariLive on Twitter. Look at him hop around there. So these guys are normally expert hunters of other birds, but now taking advantage of the high protein, easy meal that the termites provide. What we're looking at in identifying this bird is, look at those beautiful color on its beak and on its legs. You can see it's got quite long legs, so it's a sort of medium-sized little acipta. Oh, look at him go. So as you can see, they're not really used to running around on the ground. He looks a little bit out of sorts, but to take advantage of this incredible high protein feast that's in front of him, he'll get out of his natural sort of behavior. And that's one thing we must remember about lots of animals, birds included and whatnot, that certain events will cause them to behave out of their normal behavior. So this is one of two species, to narrow it down for those who might be having a little bit of trouble. So you also want to look at him go quite carefully at his chest when he pops out from behind that tree. And we also want to look at the tail and have a look at the barring. He should come back out from behind there. Oh, he's going to give me a little shake. I don't want to move any closer because I'm pretty sure we'll disturb him and he might fly away. So come on, come back out from behind the bush. So no one's quite got which bird this is yet. Jen is the closest. She's got the family right. It is a goshawk, but it's not the eastern chanting goshawk. Lisa, sorry, not Jen. Lisa got goshawk. So Lisa, you're in the right zone, but not the exact right bird. Come on, little chap, pop out from behind the bush for us again. So obviously Brent is very clever, like Brent who's sitting in the car. Oh, there we go. Oh, sorry. Apparently I thought someone called Brent was answering. It's not. It is Marilyn. So the two goshawk species we get like this, and you can just see as he lifted his tail, a very distinct white rump. So very well done to Marilyn. It is a Gabar goshawk. So the dark chanting is quite a bit bigger than this guy. So, and when he lifted his wings slightly, you just saw that very distinct white above the tail, and you can see the heavy barring on the top of the tail. And just his stance is a little bit, there we go, you see that white rump. There we go, as he took off. Wasn't that incredible? Now that white rump is one of the diagnostic identifying features of the little Gabar goshawk. Now, in certain bird species, melanism is quite prevalent, and Gabar goshawk is one of those birds, oh, excuse me, that quite often has a menelistic version. So there we go. Here's the little guy. And there we go. You see that white rump on the tail that we were talking about, and there's the menelistic version. So menelism is obviously an increase in the color or color producing cells that produce dark, and that's melanin. So a menelistic goshawk. But there we go. That's the females. Here are the males. And you can see, very beautiful bird, one of my favorite little acceptors. So we're going to continue moving along here, and from a small grey bird to a large grey beast with James.
There, everybody, believe it or not, is an elephant. Only about 10 meters from the vehicle, 30 feet, and you can see it digging there at the base of a combretum or bush willow tree. They love the roots of these combretum trees, and also, apparently, the feeling of the moist earth on them. Sorry, making a mess with my microphone. I'm sorry about that, everyone. See there, digging at the base of the tree? They love the roots, and they also obviously love the feeling of that moist earth upon their skin. Listen, just listen to it. Oh, and the smell of the earth as she's dug in it is amazing. A very strong smell of wet earth. See, there comes the root. Now this is very much winter forage. That's normally what elephants would do in the winter time, but now, of course, with a bit of softness in the earth, it's much easier to get at the roots. So she hasn't pushed the tree over, which often they would. There's a little baby who wants to get in on the act. And it's having a look at us. That's why it's opened its ears out. Attempting to see if it too can pull a root out of the ground. And there will be a lesson here. The mother will be teaching this youngster how to get these roots out. It'll be a subtle lesson. It won't be kind of an obvious one. But that's what's going on. You can see this is the second time now. We've been with these elephants for a little while, and it's the second time that we've watched the little one do precisely what the mother was doing. Isn't that interesting? And I think elephants, probably more so than just about any other mammal out here, do a lot of teaching, pass on a huge amount of knowledge to later generations. Look, there we go. Hello, James Dungan. You want to know if I know about the elephants that were taken out of Swaziland and moved to the United States because of the drought. James, I had heard nothing about that, and if it has happened, I suspect quite strongly it has to do with some nefarious political wranglings. Swaziland, of course, not a hotbed of clean government. I cannot imagine that there could possibly be a good reason to take elephants out of Africa and move them to the US because of a drought. This little one now is just trying to test himself against us. Now, Elizabeth in Minneapolis, you've asked an interesting question about a pink elephant that was seemingly born recently in the Kruger Park pictures doing the... You are too strong and vicious. Yes. Now a bit embarrassed. Elizabeth, I will get back to you. Now a bit embarrassed, so just going to have a few leaves. Oh, so sweet. Looks like a little young bull. It's mainly the young bulls that will do this. They are just too fantastic. You see, mother is completely unaffected by us. Couldn't care less. Anyway, Elizabeth, I did see that picture of the pink elephant in the Kruger Park, and it's not uncommon for an elephant to be born relatively pink, but that one did look very pink indeed, so I wonder if there isn't some kind of albinism, perhaps a lack of melanin in the skin. That's quite possible, and maybe it won't survive if it doesn't have melanin. That's just simple. It will really burn in the African sun. But let's see how it progresses. It might just be that it was born extra pink and it would perhaps get a bit darker. But I don't actually know anything about the biology of it, to be honest. This one, of course, is now probably just over a year old. And so, see, the trunk, in just a year, has learned to function really well. And it will still be suckling. It's a little bit older than a year, maybe about 14 months, but I don't think it's as much as 18 months, because then it would have little tusks erupting from underneath the mouth there. Very vicious elephant, isn't it? Yes. So watching quite carefully. And the tree that he's eating is, of course, you can note the mother is not eating the leaves of the tree. She's eating the bark and she's eating the roots. And this little fellow, I think, is probably not that clued up yet on exactly what the good stuff to eat is. Now, she's just spoken to him. She's just spoken to both her youngsters here. Just a little rumble. Oh, oh. Oh, look at the way she's digging. Isn't that amazing? Let's see if she catches another root. Paul, you're asking about how much grass will come out of this rain. Paul, I mean, this is a difficult question to answer. Quite a lot, but I don't think anything like what would have come had the growing season not been almost over. So we're into sort of mid-March now, which is heading towards autumn out here, and that means that the day length is such that the grasses will be going into their phase of dormancy. So I don't think they're going to put up any seeds, any culms, which is the sort of stalks that hold the inflorescences or flowers of grass seeds. They will flush green like they have already. There might be a little bit of expansion, but I don't think that they're going to put up the seeds. So I don't think that they're going to add to the seed bed. There's another wonderful root that she's just pulled out. You can just see it stringing out of her mouth like a piece of spaghetti. Sarah and Anna, you're in Texas, and you obviously noted that we are sitting just 30 feet from this elephant with her fairly formidable looking tusks. You want to know how fast they can run. Sarah, and Anna, they can probably run at about 60 kilometers an hour if they really want to, but probably more normally about 45 kilometers an hour. Now that in miles is roughly, what do we say that in miles? Probably about, let me just work it out quickly, just under 30 miles an hour, probably about 28 miles an hour in full charge. Now that is much faster than a human being can run. Usain Bolt can only run the 100 meters at an average of 36 kilometers per hour, so at least 10 kilometers an hour faster than Usain Bolt. So that's why if you're viewing elephants, it's quite a good idea to do it in a vehicle, and also quite a good idea if they're not very happy with you to do it such that you can start the engine quickly and drive off frontwards. And then you also want to know how big they are when they're born. Well, you can see that one, well, sorry, can we just have a look at the little one again there? The little one there, you can see, can no longer fit under its mother's belly, which means it's at least a year old. They can fit under the belly until they're about a year old. I'd say this one's about 14 months. And when they're born, they weigh 100 kilograms. That's 220 pounds. So an enormous, enormous infant is born to an adult elephant. 22 months they spend in utero or in the womb, and they come out 100 kilograms. That's a massive mass. Hello, Mohammed. Very good question here. Does the little calf have teeth? Yes, certainly. She's got the first set of molars will be in there, underneath all of that skin and in that sort of triangle-shaped mouth. But there will definitely be teeth in there. Look at that. That's a wonderful shot of the tongue moving the leaves onto the teeth, onto the molars, which will crush. Now, this other little one who's just pulled up here is probably about 3 years old and will be completely weaned. And you can see those are teeth there, Mohammed. The tusks are teeth. The two incisor teeth, the two front teeth. Well, you're interested in how old elephants are when they start to get their tusks. As I said a little earlier, they're about 18 months for the bulls, and I think a little earlier for the cows. You can see this one there is now trying to suckle. See? And we'll be having to go into the painful stage of weaning now. We're just going to be a little bit quiet as the cow comes across the road. She's completely relaxed with us, and you can tell that because she's not flapping, opening her ears or lifting her head at us. She's just trying to feed, but she will be fully aware of exactly what we're doing. I think she's quite a wizened lady, but she's not very big, so I don't think she's old. But she'll be fully aware of us. She'll be listening. She'll be smelling. I'm not sure why you're not hearing me. My lapel mic is in precisely the correct position. How's that, Louise? Terry and Santa Ana, you're obviously watching how the trunks of these elephants are very dexterous. They're moving around, making all sorts of complicated movements. That one's just picking up a stone, having a little chew of the stone there. It's interesting. And Terry, you want to know how many muscles they have. Look at this. Look at this little thing. Oh, yes, you're very vicious. Just sucking on his stone. I think these elephants get bored, as I've said before, and so when we're around and they don't feel threatened, I think they quite enjoy just spending a little bit of time being curious. So, Terry, you'll read that they have sort of 100,000 muscles in the trunk. I'm not convinced that that's accurate. I think it's probably more like 100,000 individual muscle and nerve fibers. I think to say that there are 100,000 muscles in there is probably become something of a legend around the place. Anyway, it is a complicated arrangement of circular and straight muscles and nerves in there that make it so incredibly dexterous. It's like a concertina. It can be extended and it can be contracted. It can be twisted left and right. It's incredibly strong. You can see that it's got those little fingers at the bottom to pick things up. You saw that little one picking up a stone, this one scratching its ear. And I think it's very sensitive smell-wise to what it's trying to pick up and eat. There's the little one suckling now. I must just excuse the aerial there. Unfortunately, it's the only way we can get communications to the final control at the moment. Scratching on Mum's leg. Let's head across to Brent. I think he's got some more elephants.
Oh, listen to that, Brian. Lions again. So we're actually rushing down to this western part of the reserve. We heard some lions roaring and we came across the best kind of traffic you can have in the morning. And it's a lovely little breeding herd of eddies. And they have stopped us in our tracks. So I'm probably going to have to reroute myself as not to disturb them. But look at the little guy having lots of fun. Now, that is not someone you can suckle from, little guy. That is not your mother. That is a very young female, so that little calf just playing more than anything else than actually suckling. Well, if it is Mom, I can't see any nice. No, look at that. Mammary glands. It would be very young for her to be having a baby, but I can't see any. I think that was more just playing than anything else. And I think the big female there, I think that's Mom. Oh, look at that. So sweet. Still wobbly. Still, you can see that fine sort of fur that's on them, and he's probably no older than a month. Look at that, eating some sand. So, hey, we weren't looking at you, mister. Look at that. So you can see that that's definitely not Mom. And just playing. You're not going to get much milk out of there, Chief. And we just saw that elephant put its face down into the ground and bite the soil. Now, quite often, when an elephant does that, they will eat soil for nutrients and minerals. So salts and iron and things like that. Now, they get a lot of those nutrients from the plants that they eat. So in an area like this, where we're quite nutrient rich, you don't see it too often. And with a baby, especially a wobbly little one like that, they could have just been playing. Now, in areas up north in Africa where there's not that much root nutrients, they will eat lumps of clay and salt and stuff like that. But let's just watch this little guy having so much fun in this cool weather. Mom, here I am. And it's a little female. And we're just going to sit here and let the elephants go around us rather than reroute. And it gives us a chance to listen for those lions again. Look, it's coming right up. Look at that. Hello, little thing. Now you can actually see that fuzz on it quite nicely. How young it is. Still trying to suckle on cousin. Okay, we're just gonna have to keep very quiet and very still. They're very close to us. Oh, the tree next to me just nearly jumped, and there's an elephant right here. Oh, he's moving away now, but put his trunk right towards me and grabbed there. So we're just gonna keep very still now. So even though on the camera it does look a little bit far, this big female is no more than about 6 feet from us at the moment. And you can see that her mammary glands are engorged, so I'm pretty sure she's mom. Oh, this is a wonderful herd. Very relaxed, you can see by their body language. Look at this little thing. Look, it's biting the soil again. Just got to keep very still. We're literally surrounded in 360 degrees by elephants at the moment. And they're very relaxed. Someone's coming up for a little closer inspection. You can actually hear it trying to suck on nothing there. It's even missing the nipple. Hear that? Okay, as I said, we've got to keep very, very still. You can see the tracks heading due west at the moment, and it looks like it's the Sticks girls as well as a single male. So we're going to see what we can find. It started raining a bit harder, but we're going to stick it out, and hopefully we'll get some lion luck. And we do apologize that we disappeared for a while there. Unfortunately, this weather does sometimes play havoc with some of our equipment, but hopefully all sorted again. Well, we've got a very special request from 5-year-old Carla. Hi, Carla. Carla says, I'm her favorite presenter. Carla, I am so happy and very excited that I'm your favorite presenter, and Carla is asking me to find her some lions. So, Carla, we will definitely try our best, and let's see what we can do. The tracks are heading straight into Arathusa now. So I'm just going to get hold of the guys in Arathusa and see if maybe they've already found them. Said, we've been following Gonzo of Zingala. They've crossed into Arathusa around the signboards. Is there any tracks further west? Okay, copy, thanks. I'll leave you guys to it. I'll just bumble around. Hey, Firmia, I think it's the same ones that you guys are following up on, but I'll go do a check of Triple M to the north. Okay, so there are 3 guys already following those tracks, and as a general rule, when we're following, you only have 3 vehicles working in an area, and the reason for this is to split us up as much as possible, so you don't all get congregated around the same area. So there was a report of a lion roaring further to the north of us here, so we're going to go check for that, and I will be keeping a listen out to see if Cedric and the guys from Arathusa get some luck with those Styx lionesses. Sorry, I'm just listening to the radio. Just listening to where the different guys are checking. Okay, so no, just more tracks heading towards the Arathusa Lodge. So what we're going to do, as I said, we're going to go check where the lions might have been roaring a little bit further to the north. Deborah, armchair traveller, great morning to you, Deborah, or evening, depending where you are. And Deborah said, what happened with those Ellies? Well, Brian and I just had to sit there. We had to sit there for probably how long, Brian? Another 10 minutes? And they literally just stopped and started feeding around us. Don't worry, no one, they didn't try to touch the vehicle. I don't let elephants do that. As soon as they misbehave, I just tap the side of the car. But fortunately, none of that happened. They just spread around us, carried on feeding, and after 10 minutes, it just moved on past. Oh, some wet-looking impalalas. Hello, boys. Not looking like you're enjoying this weather too much. All the hackles raised. There we go. There he is. So although they do quite enjoy the outcome of this. Oh, hello. What are you snorting at, mister? Are you getting ready to rut, or have you actually spotted a leopard or a lion? Silly boy. There's more impala. And that's what he was snorting at. Looking directly at the other male impala. Quite a big bachelor group here. So I got really excited when that little snort came through. I thought, whoop, could the impala have found the lions for us? But unfortunately not, just snorting at a bigger group of males. And as they're getting ready to rut, we're going to be hearing a lot more of that type of behavior. Okay, so we're going to continue just checking this area very carefully, and while we do that, let's go see what James has been up to while we were down.
How cool is that, everybody? Look at that vulture. I'm possibly the same ones that Brent was looking at earlier, but that one, of course, is now trying desperately to hang his wings out to dry. We found another one sitting miserably in a tree while you were away, and sorry about that. I'm sure Brent has apologised on behalf of all of us. But difficult in the rain. Of course, electricity and rain don't mix particularly well. Isn't that a wonderful picture? VMP, how are you picking up my audio? 1, 2. Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Test, test, Louise. Sorry, everybody. Testing, testing, Louise.
75.
Right, we're not sure what's going on with the audio levels. Sorry about that, everybody. We will try and sort them out as the course of the morning wears on. Anyway, fascinating stuff for those vultures. They've got completely inundated with water. Their feathers, quite contrary to belief, popular belief. I know you've all heard that birds will preen and they use oil. They put oil all over their feathers. It's not going to waterproof them at all. What it does is just help to maintain the condition of the feathers, but it doesn't tend to waterproof them as much as we think it does. So they will get completely inundated, and of course for a vulture to fly when it's wet like this is really difficult. And James Richard, a very nice question about whether or not an adult an adult vulture has got any natural predators. James, probably not. I think you might find that the odd really enormous martial eagle or crowned eagle might think about taking a vulture every so often. It was particularly desperate, but no, I wouldn't say that they have any natural predators other than each other if they die. So I mean, if a vulture dies, I've no doubt his friends will quite happily devour him. So if times get really tough, would they prey on each other? Maybe. I'm not sure. But no, I would say largely not many natural predators. Obviously, I mean, if a leopard could get at one or a lion could get at one when they were on the ground, they would definitely eat them. But not avian predators. Whoops. Let's have a little bit. We're quite close to these vultures now, and they're very reticent to try and fly away from us. There they are. Now, Hillel Bonner, you want to know if vultures find it difficult to scavenge and find prey in the fog and rain. Definitely, for two reasons. One is that they fly, they need the thermals to fly, and so when the air is cool and there is no heat coming off the ground, it's very difficult for them to move. We did see one flying off now, and I mean, it's a real effort for them to fly with flapping flight. It's not easy at all. Then the second reason, Hillel, is that they find their prey with sight. They don't find it with smell, and if it's foggy and difficult to see things, well then obviously it's going to be very difficult for them to see their prey. You can hear the pitter-patter of rain beginning again. I'm just wondering why there are so many vultures here. We've got 3 there and 1 the other side. It's not kind of an obvious collection where you'd say, oh, there's definitely something dead here. But there are quite a few. Oh, there we go. One trying to fly there. But it'll have to go and land now. There's no ways it'll be able to get up there and start soaring and looking for food. But it just didn't like the sound of us, I'm afraid. Right, lots of miserable vultures around the place. I'm just going to drive slowly through here and see if there isn't perhaps some sign of a predator that might tell us why they're all sitting here. That vulture there, VM, I think has got quite a full crop. I'll try and retrieve my powerful binoculars so that I might verify. Now the crop, yes it does. You see that kind of bare bit of skin below its ruff, or that sort of fairly ridiculous cravat of feathers that it has around its neck there. That's where the crop is, and the crop is a little pouch in the esophagus that holds onto food before it's digested, and that looks quite full. So that little vulture has found something to eat at some stage quite recently. Yes, Aqua, you are obviously a student of... There are a lot of vultures around here. You see them more there, VMP. Way through there. 3 or 4. Let's drive slowly through here. I mean, they would have been here for the last few days because of the rain, so I'm not convinced there's something dead here. Aqua, you want to know about the interlocking features of feathers, and is the preening to kind of help them interlock? Absolutely. That's precisely what they do. I'm just trying to think if I should draw you a picture or just try and explain it. There are 3 aspects to the barbs of a feather. There's the actual, well, there's the sort of, what do you call it, the shaft on which the barbs grow. Then you've got the barbs, which are the largest pieces of the feather that grow out of it like that. And then on each of those, you've got something called a barbule, and that kind of will interlock with something called a barbicelle coming out of the other, of the dorsal side or front side of a feather. So it's like Velcro. Basically, the way to imagine it is like pieces of Velcro that stick together, and by preening, they just realign the Velcro, they realign the barbs, and the barbules and barbicelles then stick those barbs together so that they can fly. You know, they're pretty airtight, they're pretty watertight. Some very angry francolins around here. You can hear them going. And just lovely when that light breaks through the cloud, isn't it wonderful? Just see a subtle change to the landscape. I don't see anything of particular note for what the vultures might be having a go at. But what we will do, I think, is come back up the road there, which is called Mumba Road, to the north of us. That's to the right-hand side of your screen. And see if we can't find something along that road. So lovely. You can now see a couple of shadows coming. There's just a little bit of sun breaking through behind us. I think it's going to be covered up again fairly soon. I'm not sure what the weather report says about whether or not this cloud is going to continue, but I think it is until Monday or so. Anyway, let's move on a little bit faster. Hello, Weedy in Washington. Weedy. Wonderful name. You want to know what we do when it's raining? Cam ops and the final control, and there's a batelier flying away. Well done, VM. Also, we'll struggle. Look how difficult it is to get up. There's some adults in there too. We won't get any closer than that, but there's an adult batelier there, and the little brown one that flew in there was a juvenile. Weedy, when it's raining, we basically sit around and wait for it to stop raining until the end of drive, and then we get on with the other things that we do. And there is another vulture.
Where's another vulture?
Sorry. That is really, we were asked specifically not to do that. There, it's just, yeah, it's just flown off there. I think it was a vulture, but it seems to be that there's a lot of stuff, lot of kind of scavenging prey birds around here. Let's just keep a slow look around. Weedy, yeah, we played 30 seconds yesterday, for example, which is a sort of general knowledge quiz game, which Nat.Geo Smith gets very excited about. He becomes audible from at least 5 kilometers away, as does Jerry, that's correct. Jerry the cheesecake became extremely excited at the general knowledge game we played yesterday.
I didn't play.
VM didn't play. What were you doing, VM?
I don't like board games. I was on my computer.
VM doesn't like board games. He was probably building some kind of space station on his computer. Right, we're actually not too far from where Karula's den was. or is. I'm not sure if she's still there or not. So maybe she's left something in a tree around here that's inspired the vultures and the batelier to hang about, looking for a bit of scavenging meal to have. I'm not sure. I'm going to drive very slowly. There's still drizzle coming out of the sky. You may just be able to hear the soft patter of rain, or you probably can't over the sound of the engine, but it is falling.